This is the third and final installment of my series on mythology and Stargate. Part 1 was on the idea of rational primitive man. Part 2 was the idea about the use of Norse mythology in Stargate. And today we're going to talk a little bit more about the idea of Ragnarok from Norse mythology and its use in Stargate. Now, as I pointed out in the previous installment, that one of the things that the writers do is they move away from the literary tradition of Norse mythology, and they move more toward a kind of popular conception of it. And by ignoring the complexities and subtleties of the literary tradition, Stargate does two things. First, it really allows the franchise to develop complexities and subtleties that are different than the mythic tradition. Second, and more important for my purposes here, they tap into the power that myth has in our culture. It doesn't matter that Ra or Apophis are not evil in ancient mythology. What matters is the ways in which modern audiences perceive the ancient Egyptians as being defined by pharaohs of despotic power, capricious gods, and the remainder of society merely slaves eternally building pyramids to glorify those pharaohs and their gods. Now these might be stereotypes, but these are stereotypes that work for the matter of storytelling. In the case of the Asgard of Stargate, the central mythology is that of Ragnarok. The idea of Ragnarok is first mentioned in the second season in the episode Thor's Chariot. When the Goa'uld come to attack Chimera, a planet with an ancient Norse mythology, the natives take the Goa'uld for Etins, and they think it is Ragnarok. And Daniel Jackson explains Ragnarok this way. That's Norse Armageddon, the end of the world. Now, the idea of Ragnarok being the end of the world creates dramatic tension, not because it's just the end of the world for mankind, which is dramatic-y and tension-y enough, but also for the gods themselves, or, in this case, the race most closely associated with those gods, the Asgard. From early on in the series, then, the myth is used to suggest that the Asgard, like the Norse gods they personify, are ultimately doomed. As the series progresses, we get more and more clues that the Asgard are indeed doomed. Also associated with the idea of Ragnarok is Valhalla. For the Norse, those who die in battle are transported to the Hall of the Slain, Valhalla, where they dwell until Ragnarok, at which time they'll help the gods fight against chaos, a fight that, like the gods themselves, they're doomed to lose. In other words, all the cosmos and all of humanity will cease to exist in one glorious fight. Although in actual Norse mythology this is not really the end and a new cosmos is born out of the old, the popular understanding is just as Daniel Jackson described it, the end of the world. From the very first encounters with the alien Thor via holograph, the SG-1 team comes to understand that they are being tested, to be certain that they're not too young as a species. The Asgard are not merely protecting humanity, they're incubating it until such a time that it can become a partner in their war against enemies such as the Goa'uld and the Replicators. In other words, the writers set up a dramatic tension, wherein it is not at all certain that the good guys will win in the end. Just as humanity is fated to be destroyed with the Norse gods, humanity might be fated to be destroyed with the Asgard. This sense that we're doomed grows more and more as it becomes clear that we've ceased to be mere clients of the Asgard and are instead partners in their war, if only junior partners. Though we might progress along an evolutionary path toward becoming ascended beings, virtue and honor might also demand that we take the path of the Asgard. And indeed, the Asgard are doomed, in part by their own cloning experiments, and in part by the enemies they've made by protecting other planets. Now, unfortunately, perhaps the most glaring missed opportunity of Stargate is the series finale of SG-1. In the beginning of the episode, the Asgard are ultimately destroyed, but not before they give humanity the bulk of their knowledge to carry on the fight. Although the principal characters are in danger of death, they spend decades trapped in a bubble of time while trying to figure out a method of escape, and humanity is not immediately in danger of extinction. In fact, the Asgards themselves go without so much as a whimper, and the humans who witness their extinction give little more than a shrug when it's over. An implausible reaction, since the Asgard had long been humanity's protector, and the characters present had become personal friends with some of the same Asgard who were just killed in this episode. Still, up until that point, the assumption that audiences have is that the good guys will always win, that they'll always find some way to defeat the forces of evil, was challenged. Ragnarok might come. The gods might be destroyed, and mankind might be destroyed at their side. Since we're doomed, we should behave with as much honor as possible, dying gloriously and bravely. And in fact, the gods themselves were doomed, or at least were doomed in the persona of the Asgard. In the Stargate universe, however, humanity has earned its place in Valhalla, not to die alongside the gods, but to take their place when all seems lost.